You're listening to Enduring Marks, an immersive audiobook series written, performed, and produced by Ardent Melody, featuring the voice talents of Scrub VA, Vogue Persona, and Words by Parker. This audiobook contains adult language, dark themes, and intense portrayals of violence that may be disturbing to some. Please take a moment to review the content warnings in the episode description and prioritize your mental health. Listener discretion is advised.
Chapter 1. Mana. That night wasn't supposed to be anything special. Aside from the news that Ilani had just been selected for promotion to major, her night had been uneventful. Still, that bit of news had her thrilled, and she thought about getting a small maple leaf tattoo to commemorate the occasion.
Is it weird to tattoo your rank on your body?
She thought.
Probably. Do I care? No. I love leaves. Even when I make general, it'll still work.
She started strapping into her uniform, muscle memory driving the process as her mind wandered.
It'd need to be small so I could cover it on duty. So, maybe on my ankle, shoulder, or maybe it'd be easier to hide under my chest wraps.
Ilani Ashford had served with the Creatine Sentinels ever since she was old enough to enlist. And she loved her job. She'd always been a very physical person, wrestling and getting into scraps with whoever she could. When she was able to choose training in hand-to-hand combat as her primary discipline, she couldn't have been more happy. She was proud of her work outside of combat as well. Ilani specialized in investigation, clandestine ops, and strategic maneuvers. Her rank and responsibilities advanced quickly for someone of her age. Reaching captain only 31 years into Sentinel service was almost unheard of. Ilani reported in at the palace gates and got the night's assignment. She smiled. Tonight, she'd be on patrol around the palace's outer wall. It was a gorgeous night, and Ilani was excited for the fresh air and quiet. Elevated syndicate activity a few months back had prompted the Royal Guard to request Sentinel support in and around Creatine. As soon as the request went out, Ilani advocated for her unit to volunteer. It didn't take much to convince them. A lot of them had never been to the palace, and serving the royal family without being a member of the Royal Guard was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. For Ilani, her parents and sibling lived near the palace, and it had been too long since she'd spent significant time with them. She'd be able to stay with them if they got the assignment, which her mother, who constantly asked when she'd be visiting next, no matter how recent her last visit had been, would greatly appreciate. About a month into their Creatine deployment, Ilani's unit intercepted survival plans to attack the palace. She informed the Royal Guard and led the effort alongside her unit to scramble guard routing, reinforce key entry points against physical attack and teleportation magic, and rewrote the palace codebook so anything that may have been leaked would be useless. When the attack was attempted anyway, the culprits were easily apprehended, including a mole within the Royal Guard. Ilani smiled, remembering the princess's thanks to her team. They were all so excited, and she was happy to see them get the recognition that they deserved. As she walked, she mentally mulled over recent intelligence reports. Things seemed quiet by comparison to when they arrived. Survival was probably regrouping, as they always did. But for now, the royal family was safe. It wasn't clear how much longer the assignment would last, but making such a significant impact so soon was recognized by her superiors. She imagined that was part of the reason for her upcoming promotion, but wouldn't know for sure until it was made formal. She hoped the rest of her units was receiving similar consideration. Ilani walked the patrol route in silence, listening to the cacophony of leaves rustling in the breeze. It was her favorite sound, and the cool air's light touch felt great on an uncharacteristically warm Creatine night. The Creatine Palace shimmered in the distance. Magical lights of all colors danced on the golden and marble exterior. Ilani's slightly unpopular opinion was that the palace was prettier at night, though it shimmered in the daytime as well. Her favorite part was the palace grounds. Both inside and just outside its walls were covered in flora and fauna from all over the island, plus some colorful and strange exotic plants from the Feywild. Ilani's love of plants made her wonder if she, in some life, was a botanist. They always brought her peace, and she loved how much life she could sense in them. Ilani turned another corner on the outer wall. As she quietly wondered where her unit might be assigned next, she felt it. The hairs on her arms stood up, and her whole body flushed with a tingling sensation as an unnatural quiet enveloped her.
Mana.
Attack!
She shouted as she pivoted, but her shifting boots made no sound, and her voice never rang out. 2 sudden strikes to the back of her neck made her muscles lock, and before she could even turn to face her attacker, 2 more strikes knocked her to the ground. Her head slamming into the cobblestone is the last thing she remembers before everything went black. Ilani awoke with a killer headache. As she tried to lift her hands to her throbbing forehead, she felt the coarse threads of her restraints instead. Her hands wouldn't budge a millimeter, nor would her legs. Her heart pounded as she opened her eyes, finding herself in pitch blackness. Thanks to her elven lineage, she could see that she was seated in a small, mostly empty room. She tried to mutter out a message, but was stopped by a thick cloth tied tightly around her head.
Fuck.
She shivered, and not just because her robes were gone. A wave of panic rushed up from her core and threatened to overwhelm Ilani, but it was tamped back down by her training. She closed her eyes and forced herself to take a deep breath.
Calm.
Another deep breath.
Think, Ilani.
One more.
Assess your situation.
Ilani steeled herself and opened her eyes.
Okay. Where am I?
Ilani noted the cold temperature, and not just because she was seated in her skivvies.
Probably still creatine. That's good, at least.
She took a deep breath, focusing on the scents.
Dust. To be expected in a basement. But there's something more vibrant. Moss. Leaves. Surrounding mana that feels grounded. Natural.
Ilani tilted her head toward faint, distant sounds.
Birds. Rustling leaves.
She looked at the walls to her side and the shapes above her.
Dirt. Moist dirt. Wooden upper floor. Heavy support beams. But rounded at the bottom. Logs.
She couldn't be certain without more information, but Ilani would bet money she was in the Createe Woods. Small cabin. Probably remote.
This is bad. Cabins are hard to find when you know what you're looking for. This? People looking for me would start in the city, near where I was posted. And who knows how long I've been out. I could be almost anywhere. Kidnapping a sentinel is no small matter. Whoever did this either knows that and doesn't care, or...
Ilani's thoughts were cut off by the sound of light, measured footsteps across the wooden floor above. Whoever this was, they were careful with their weight distribution.
Another monk?
Ilani straightened, bracing herself. The door opened, gently closed, and stairs behind her softly creaked.
You're awake, cadets.
A deep male voice stated the fact plainly as he approached.
It's Captain, asshole.
Ilani looked over her shoulder, trying to see her assailant. She intentionally steadied her breaths.
Pay attention, Ilani. Every detail matters right now.
The voice was closer, approaching directly behind her.
You don't seem all that concerned by your predicament. Most people would panic.
A few steps closer.
But you're not most people, are you, Ilani?
A wisp of hot air on her right ear startled her.
Good.
Whiskey.
The scent was faint, but unmistakable.
That's something.
The tall man stepped around the chair, finally coming into view. He stared down at Ilani, hands casually clasped behind his back, and Ilani stared back at him. It took her headache-addled brain a moment, but his identity came to her soon enough, trickling in piece by piece.
Palace security. Spiral had son. Vulian. Fuck.
You're a smart woman, Cadet Ashford. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that you already know who I am.
He paced a few steps in front of her.
You might have even figured out what I want.
She glared at him.
The codes. The cipher. He knows I helped write them.
He crossed his arms and leaned against the wall, silent. Ilani knew he was reading her just as much as she was reading him.
He's confident. White long-sleeved peasant shirt, ties undone, sleeves rolled up to the elbows, slicked back dark hair, dark trousers, average calf-high boots. She's dressed down for him. Not good. He's gonna get messy.
The corner of Vulian's mouth tugged into a smirked grin as he sat down on the ground in front of Ilani, just far enough away that even if she flung the chair to its side, she wouldn't be able to reach him. He slowly drew a dagger and whetstone from his belt, never breaking eye contact with Ilani as the pristine blade gently parted from its holster.
Fuck.
There are two ways this can go, cadets.
Ilani narrowed her eyes in response.
Here it comes.
The easy way.
He mused, his eyes drifting to the steel blade he slid across the whetstone.
Involves you committing treason against your precious crown.
Fucking drama queen. Just say it, coward.
Or The hard way,
he said, barely containing a smile as he held up the sharpened weapon.
Involves you and my blade getting very, very well acquainted.
He twisted and turned the blade, admiring it as he went on.
You and I both know that you're unlikely to cave right away.
He returned his eyes to Ilani's, pressing his hand to his chest in mock chivalry.
But what kind of gentleman would I be if I didn't at least give you the chance?
Ilani's breathing deepened to huffs, and her jaw set. Steeled eyes fixed in fury against her attacker. She knew she was being manipulated, but the anger rose within her anyway. Vullian chuckled as he stood, tossing the dagger from blade to handle, over and over.
Defiant as ever, I see.
His laugh grew more gleeful.
Good. I'd hoped to have a little fun. After all, Ilani.
His voice lowered to a growl as he moved in and grabbed Ilani's hair, forcing her to face him.
You've interfered with my plans before.
An involuntary muffled shriek escaped Ilani's throat as Vullian's dagger slashed her cheek, clavicle, and shoulder in quick succession with each word.
You owe me!
Her eyes squeezed shut in pain, then opened wide.
Damn it.
Her breath caught in her throat, and her heart slammed against her ribcage.
Not so fucking cocky now, are we?
He balled his fingers into a shaking fist against her scalp, pulling tightly enough that tears welled into her eyes. The wet heat of trickling blood down her face, arm, and chest was an afterthought to how angry she was with herself for reacting to the pain and showing her surprise.
Do you have any idea how much money you've cost me?
He was practically shouting in her face. Ilani could do nothing but swallow, though she heard her old sergeant's voice in her head.
Keep your shit together, soldier. Don't let him win any more than he already has.
No!
He taunted, searching Ilani's face for a reaction.
Let's see if we can jog your memory.
He yanked Ilani's head backward as far as it would go, briefly tipping the chair onto its two back legs.
16, 18, Zilla.
He paused, staring into her eyes as he put his dagger to the top of her sternum.
Grain shipment.
Ilani grunted as he sliced.
1623. Shayla.
He moved the dagger slightly below the freshest wound.
Mead.
Ilani looked up, trying to focus on a knot in the wooden beam above as the blade slid through her skin once more.
1631. Kavon.
He started angrily making his hash marks down her sternum faster, listing successful sentinel operation after successful sentinel operation. Ilani remembered them all. His anger was almost satisfying.
You're just reminding me how often I've won. Keep going, motherfucker.
Blood had completely soaked through Ilani's chest wraps by the time Vullian grew winded. He released Ilani's hair and stood. As he ran the back of his wrist over his sweat-dotted forehead, he turned away to catch his breath. The moment Ilani's head was freed, her chin dropped to her chest. Her headache certainly hadn't benefited from the hair pulling, and the back of her skull had grown numb from the vicious pressure. The cuts Volian had carved into her skin stung badly, the later ones being especially painful. Each wound had become deeper and less carefully placed as he worked himself into a frenzy. He cut countless deliberate gashes all over her face, shoulders, and chest before his near-blind rage finally waned.
Done already?
She thought sarcastically. Ilani let out a soft, breathy laugh, audible even through the gag. The floor quietly groaned as Volian's weight shifted.
You're fucking laughing?
This only made her chuckle harder before taking a shaky breath. She mumbled through the gag.
What did you say?
The survival air sounded almost as astounded as he was angry. Ilani couldn't lift her head, but when he knelt in front of her and lifted her chin, he found her smiling. Weakly sputtered scoffs somehow made their way through the cloth meant to silence her. She opened her eyes, peering at him through the blood trickling from her forehead. She said it louder this time.
You're insane. You know that?
Ilani sputtered more chuckles.
Fucking hell.
Volian let Ilani's chin fall and reached behind her head to release the gag.
Not like anyone is going to hear you out here anyway.
He wiggled the cloth free from her teeth and tossed it aside.
Now, what was that? Captain.
Ilani coughed a little, her throat raw with thirst. She wriggled and stretched her jaw before she spoke, voice strained.
Pathetic.
Volian picked up her chin so he could look her in the eyes.
Me? Pathetic?
He laughed.
You should see yourself.
Ilani weakly smirked.
Don't need to.
She swallowed and took a deeper breath.
I'm not the one throwing a tantrum.
Volian's lips parted and his brow furrowed. Brief shock overtaking his features before his jaw angrily clenched. He threw Ilani's head to the side and stood in a huff. As her head recentered before her eyes fluttered closed, Ilani saw his fist tighten around the dagger's hilt. She expected to feel the knife driven between her ribs, but instead heard something clatter across the floor. Before Ilani could process it, Volian's foot drove into her stomach so hard that the chair slid backward several feet, then fell over.
You still want to talk shit?
Ilani gasped for air to no avail. Volian followed her immobilized form to the floor, fists flying.
Where's that mouth now, Ilani? What's that? I can't hear you!
Really proving me wrong here, pal.
She thought. She held on to her humor for dear life, fighting the fear that threatened to creep further in with each landed blow. The bloodied sentinel's ears eventually rang loud enough that she couldn't hear his taunts anymore. She softly wheezed, otherwise motionless by the time Volian suddenly stopped.
Fuck!
He sounded winded.
No.
Volian frantically pressed two fingertips into Ilani's neck. Sounds started to swim, and her thoughts became fuzzy. She was fairly certain he was talking to himself, but what he was saying was unclear. Only disjointed words broke through her fog, and they started getting lost among her fading thoughts.
You just had to open your big mouth, didn't you, Alani? I guess this isn't the worst way to go. I wonder if they'll ever find me.
Where was that potion?
Revenge. God of death. Table for one.
Ilani vaguely felt herself rolled onto her back, and something hard and cool being pressed between her lips.
That's it. Just drink it up.
An unfamiliar liquid made its way down her throat. And the next thing she knew, her chest heaved, racked with coughs and sudden intakes of air. Her skin crawled as parts of it stitched itself back together.
There we go.
And broken bones ached and groaned their way back where they belonged.
It's okay.
As her senses started returning to her, she realized what was happening.
Fuck, magic, dude.
That's fine. I won't fucking die today.
This is gonna suck.
End of Chapter 1.
See, it takes time to forgive, and I promise you I will wait for that day. I never thought my lonely heart would ache for my own scars. I never thought my lonely heart would ache for my own scars. Thinking of you.
You've been listening to Episode 1 of Enduring Marks. This episode featured the voice talents of Scrub VA as narrator, Ardent Melody as Ilani, Vogue Persona as Vulian, and Words by Parker as the Sergeant. This full-cast immersive audiobook series is written, edited, and produced by Ardent Melody and AMP Studios. It is a prequel series based on A Creative Trouble, a side quest of a mercenary's adventure, created by Shailene Saruga. It is currently available on YouTube and will be coming soon to other audio platforms. For more information on this and other Ardent Melody series, please visit youtube.com/@ArdentMelodyAudios. For more information on other projects by our wonderful cast, including their original series projects, please see the episode description for their website and/or channel links. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for our next episode.